So welcome to the course of conflict resolution and negotiation process. This is week 1 from 8 weeks. I'm so happy to be with you. It's a very crucial and sometimes the most applicable course in the program of DBA, MBA and DBA, because you can use it also in your daily life, your interpersonal and other parts, other aspects of your life. The book, as you know, is one of the good books, one of the most famous books, and also one of the most applicable books in the field of conflict resolution and negotiation process, specifically in the part of conflict resolution, so-called conflict resolution toolbox. So the first question is that, what is conflict? How can you define conflict, Luisa?
I would say a disagreement between two parties.
Only disagreement, argument, dispute, more important than everything, because other title for conflict resolution is dispute resolution or dispute management, something more than disagreement. Also, we can use disagreement. So what does it mean? For example, we can see conflict in many areas of human life: interpersonal conflict, business conflict, political conflicts, very important conflicts between the countries, between the different parties, political parties, relationship conflicts between the couples, between the family members, and sometimes here, as you see, in organizations. Also, we will not talk only about the organizational conflict. We will offer you in these 8 weeks 9 models for thinking and talking about conflict resolution. So what type exactly, can you say me, what type of conflict, what type of disagreement, what type of dispute, what type of argument can be called conflict, or what situations can be called conflictual situation? For example, sometimes we say it's a conflictual relationship. Is there any, for example, one time or two times of disagreement between two persons, two parties, as you said, between a couple, between spouses? If, for example, in one time or two times of disagreement can be called conflictual situation or conflictual relationship, or no, it's related, it is not related to the amount of disagreement, it's related to the quality, the matter, the subject of the disagreement. How do you think, as a student of MBA that want to organize something like an organization, or maybe, for example, other parts like leaders, how do you think about the quality of conflict? Other students, please turn your video on. Off videos cannot be considered as present. If you want to consider in attendance list as welcome, as present, your video should be on. Okay, welcome. Luisa, what type of conflict, what type of disagreement can you consider as a conflictual situation?
Disagreement that maybe distracts you or keeps you from continuing with your work. So if it reaches there's like easy conflicts which don't really maybe influence, and you can just continue with your life and your work. But then there are other conflicts that do influence you, and then you have to try to resolve it.
And Dean Ngoktin, can I pronounce correctly your name?
Yes, or you can just call me Phoebe.
Phoebe, yeah. Where are you from?
Oh, I'm from Vietnam, but
Vietnam.
but I lived here for a couple of years, and I really went to Camel to get my associate. So now I go back to Kamo again to get this.
Okay, perfect. I have never gone to that part of the world, but I
Okay.
know it is very beautiful. I have heard that Oriental countries are very, very beautiful, especially Vietnam. I know it.
Thank you.
One time I checked the Vietnamese food in California. My son loved the Oriental foods very much because, as you know, many Chinese here in California, especially in California, especially in Irvine. Irvine has a university as called UCI.
Mhm.
Also, it is University of California, Irvine. But as a joke, they said it is the University of Chinese and Indian, UCI. You know, because many Chinese and Indian are here. Okay, welcome to our class. Welcome to
Thank you.
California Miramar University. Is it your first course in CalMU or not?
Yeah, I did the first course, so I still like a little bit struggle with the Zoom right now. Somehow like the screen doesn't pop up so that I can see like your screen. So I'm trying to figure it out right now.
You cannot see my screen?
But it's very small in the corner of my laptop. It's not like yeah. 2 days ago I attend one class and it's like the whole of my screen is your screen, but now it's just a little corner of my screen, and it's very hard for me to read.
No, it's not important. It's correct. Can you see the
Okay.
PowerPoint?
Yes, but I
It's
think
cor-
like just half of the PowerPoint.
No, you should. It's a how I don't know what's the problem, but yes, it is correct that you see a very small picture of me and also Luisa at your right or left of your screen. But I
Yeah.
don't know about the PowerPoint because I am sharing the PowerPoint. Okay.
Okay.
What type of, Luisa said, we are talking about the nature of conflict. Luisa said that conflict is dispute, is disagreement. And I said, is there any specific feature, any specific criteria for considering some type of disagreement or dispute as conflict? I had an example. I said, for example, two spouses or a couple have sometimes some dispute, some disagreement with each other. But we don't call them, yes, it is conflictual relationship or conflictual problem or conflictual situation. We say, yes, this is disagreement or dispute or something like it. My main question is the major features of quality of something that can be called a conflict. Do you have any specific view about it?
So conflict is, for me, conflict is just like the two parties, they don't agree in one thing.
Don't have. So you say again, it is disagreement. For example, if you have some disagreement with your partner or with your, for example, parents or your close friends, is it conflict always?
It's different kinds of conflict. It might be called conflict, but it's not like a conflict in argument or some serious thing like fighting or something. Is
Yeah. Some qualities of conflictual situations is about the, at first it can be repeatable, can be long term, not short term. Welcome, Payal.
Hi, Dr. R.
Welcome. Where are you from?
I'm actually from Panama, but my background is from India.
Oh, perfect. We are talking about conflict. So one of the
I was
main
listening
nature.
the conversation.
Yeah.
Just sorry to disturb you. I actually have one request. I wasn't expecting this class for today because I had just one class, but then Marcelo told me that because of my coursework and all that, I will have to take this class. So I already had an appointment for today. So that's why I'm out. Yeah, so I don't know if you like to keep as you said, we have to keep our cameras on to be considered as we are present in the class.
Your excuse is accepted. No problem.
Okay.
If you are,
and I had one more request. I just wanted.
You are comfortable with video off. Okay. This session, no problem.
Okay. And one more thing, I don't know if my classmates are you are fine with it. Do we need to have the class like as the university give like the same specific day, or there is an option to change the class day?
To
Like
online,
example, instead
from
of
hybrid to online?
like no, like instead of the Wednesdays, can we do it on Tuesdays, or that's not an option
I
we
don't
can
know.
go for?
The time of this class is fixed. I don't think that it can be changed. But if you need any other time, or you want to change your class from hybrid to online, you can email to Quality Control Department, Rupali, and talk about it. But I know that this time
Sure.
is not changeable.
Okay, perfect.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Welcome.
No, that'll be all.
Okay, be with us. If you want, you can take your camera off. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I was talking about the duration of a disagreement, which can be called conflict. It should be repeatable. It should be in a long term, not one time. If it is one time, okay, it is only disagreement. You have some problems, for example, with your friends, with your partner, with your love partner, job partner, everybody around yourself. But if it is repeatable, you can call it a conflict. In one of the major problems, it is not every single disputation, not every single disagreement can be considered as conflict. So let's go to the parts of this introduction. This session is introduction to the book, and I love also this session because there's many different things you should know about conflict. At first, you should know that conflict resolution totally has three parts: analyzing the conflict, diagnosing the conflict, and resolving the conflict. So-called in a, so we can call it ADR: analyzing the conflict, diagnosing the conflict, and resolving it. So let's go, what is that? ADR. Because relationships are a universal human experience, conflict is something that every single of us work with and address in our lives far beyond the workplace. The last book I taught in Kalamyuu for discourse was called Interpersonal Conflict. Also, I know your course is about conflict management, conflict resolution, and negotiation processes. But the major part of conflict is about interpersonal conflict, not about the content. Also, I know, and you know, that the content of conflict between you and your partner, between you and your neighbors, between you and your parents and other family members, close friends, is something different from between you and your coworker, between you and employer, between you and your employee and other organizational members that you can encounter with them during your, for example, job. The content is different, but the form and the process and the context of conflict is relatively the same. It is something like, for example, using your device for cooking. The process, the form, and the application of your, for example, rice cooker is the same. If it is vaporization, use the vaporize for cooking your rice, is it the same? But you can change your rice with something of other nuts in that device. So the content can be different, but the context, the form can be different, and usually is different. So if you know how to manage, how to resolve your conflict in your organization, absolutely you will be able to manage your interpersonal with your family members, with your friends, with your society, with your community members. Out of your organization, you will be a very superwoman or man to resolve your conflicts. So the principles of solving and resolving the problems, resolving the conflicts, and also processing the negotiation is the same. Because of that, they said we all practice conflict resolution daily, not only for organizations. In that sense, we are all practitioners when it comes to working with conflict effectively. Mediators and practitioners are interchangeably to mean people who deal with and manage conflict. Sometimes also technically they are a little different. Not all the practitioners, conflict management practitioners or conflict resolution practitioners, not all of them are mediators. Mediators are somebody different from practitioners, but totally they do the same work. Totally they do the same thing. You see different names for practitioners like mediators, negotiators, managers and supervisors, lawyers, union representatives, social workers, human resource, labor relation specialists, and insurance adjusters. Even insurance adjuster can be considered as a practitioner for conflict resolution. Two key steps in all versions, in all types of conflict management you should take. One, effectively diagnosing a conflict. What is the matter of conflict? What is the essence of conflict? It is something like diagnosis and illness. You should, for example, in psychotherapy, there are some criteria for diagnosis and illness, so-called, like, for example, MDD, major depressive disorder. They have 9 criteria, 9 symptoms, that those symptoms says, yes, I have major depressive disorder, MDD or not. It is diagnosis. For diagnosis, you should have criteria to have a correct diagnosis. And after that, for duration, and after that, for dysfunctionality, that this conflict, is it permanent conflict or temporary conflict? Is it the sense of importance, which grade, which degree of organizational degree the conflict is occurring between the managers, between the mid-level managers, between the simple workers. All are the criteria of diagnosing your conflict. What was the steps? Analyzing, diagnosing, resolving, ADR. Analyzing, diagnosing, and resolving, ADR. After analyzing, we have a good diagnosing. After diagnosing, based on the models that you will learn in the next 8 weeks, you will learn 9 models for conflict resolving. After a good diagnosing, also each of them has a very specific pattern for diagnosing your conflict. I know it. But finally, you have 9 models for resolving your conflicts. Okay? Based on those 9 conflict management, conflict resolution models, you will have some good approaches for resolving about the problems, about the solution, about the conflict, and other names that you can use for the situation that you are involved. So second key step is taking action to manage the conflict based on diagnosis. At first diagnosis, to take action as soon as possible before your idea dims, as one of the greatest success coaches says. He says, take action as soon as possible before your idea dims, before your idea will be dark. So here, take action as soon as possible to manage the conflict based on the diagnosis. Step 1, find the root causes of, we want to go to finding the root cause, analyzing, effectively diagnosing a conflict based on theoretical background knowledge. It is something like other types of diagnosing. For example, we have some types of economic principles, economic disciplines. What type of economic discipline, what type of economic system do you know? For example, I am not certain about it. Is the economic system of Vietnam is based on communism? I don't know, socialism or not. You are muted. Again, I cannot hear you. Louisa, can you hear? You are not muted, but we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay.
What is
Yes.
Thank
the
you.
economic system of the government of Vietnam? Is it
It's so,
communism, like
uh,
China?
yeah. So we don't have president. We just have a group of people to control the government, but not the
No,
president.
not about
Uh,
the systematic of government. Not about this economic systems. For example, in
oh,
America, economic system is capitalism, based on the capital and turning over of money, and basic rules of this government in the last at least 200 years, very legal issues for protecting the turnover the money between, for example, now in COVID, they are injecting a lot of money between people for creating the balance, because they know after passing the crisis, okay, if the people doesn't have any money economic suffering after passing the corona, they go to the real life and the ordinary life. But if it is a crisis, 4 years, 5 years after crisis, the country will have some post-crisis problems, like many countries, for example, in Middle East, and also in that part of world you are living in, Oriental country. This is called capitalism, capitalistic economic system. But China has communism, concentration of money, not only between specific people, all people, nobody is rich, okay, but nobody cannot be poor, because this comes socialism, communism. Is the economic system of Vietnam based on this or that?
based on like in America,
Based on
not like
America.
China. Yeah.
I was surprised. I thought that Vietnam is like China. Okay.
Not quite, because we have like we protect the money too, just like in America.
Yeah. Many companies, many great companies of America, like Nike.
Yeah.
When I go to Nike, I see that many shoes is made in Vietnam under the license of Nike also.
Yes.
So perfect. So we have two parts in any type of professional practice, in sociology, in engineering, in computer science, in economy, also in management, in business, and leadership, and other parts. We have two parts. One, theories, two, models. What is a theory? Theory is abstract investigation with less or little applicability to practitioner. For example, in conflict management, it is the abstract part, it is the basic parts. Scientific theory, scientific models wants to have 4 dimensions, 4 functions, scientific models, scientific theories. They want to have a description describing what is happening, for example, in the market. It is description. After that, finding not always the causality, sometimes it is not about the cause and effect, it is about the correlation. Correlation is happening in the same time, simultaneously, between 2 things or 3 things. It is correlative. It is not about the cause and effect. It is not about the causation. It is about cause and effect, not about the cause. It is sometimes cause and effect, sometimes about correlation. It is called explanation. So first duty, first function of science and theory is description. Second one is explanation. Description only based on observation, explanation based on the previous theories. We can offer some causality, some cause and effect, or sometimes, or not sometimes, many times we can offer only correlation between different variables in what we are observing during our description. The third function of science, and also from scientific theories, is to predict the future based on the very small sample. We can, based on the statistical models, statistical tools, we can predict, yes, based on this small sample, the general population, the whole society will have some behaviors in the future. It is very important to have the prediction. If a theory, if a scientific theory doesn't have any power to predict the future, it is not so good theory. It's a weak theory. Sometimes, some theories like, for example, Freud about psychoanalysis, there is a good description, there is a good explanation, and also there is a good prediction. Psychoanalysts can say you what this or that lady or gentleman will do during the, for example, next 2 years, based on the childhood, early childhood. And the last function of theory, science or scientific theory, is about control. What you can say and call it just now as technology. Technology is the control part of science. By statistics, you come, by observation, you come to description. By a statistic, you will pass two steps, explanation and prediction. And by technology, you will have some control over the life, over future, over present time, and anything else. With these four major functions of science, you can consider science also here for something like conflict resolution or negotiation processes. Why? It's an academy. It is not a free course, and you are a student of master degree, not high school diploma. So it should be based on science. And what is science? Science is a model to observing, describing, prescribing, prediction, and control the world. It is the scientific definition of science. It is the operational definition of science. It is the conceptual definition of science. From any aspect you want to look at science, we can find these major elements for basic definition of science. So it is university, and you are students of university in the higher level, not in the basic level like bachelor, the higher level, master degree, and the doctorate degree is higher level. So it should be based on research, based on evidence base. Because of that, as you have maybe watched my video about how to work with LIR and Learn, and how to work with APA style, publication style, and how to work with Grammarly, for example, not only for international students, sometimes for native students. It is not about the weak writing or reading skills. It is for higher skills. So maybe a Native American doesn't know anything about the higher skills of reading and writing. Because of it is in the university, you should know about the research method. If you don't know anything about how to work with research, you have gone to a free course without any scientific approved material. Sometimes it may be scientific, but scientific approved is evidence-based. If I ask you, you ask me about the evidence, I should offer you, or you should offer me the evidence about your, for example, subject. Because of that, a major part of grading of your learning engagement, weekly learning engagement, is related to the references you have cited. It is very important for us, especially for me, that you should cite your materials, you should cite your posts with the approved scientific based and research based articles or material. Why? Because it is university, university is science, science is research method is article, academic article. So this part, of course, now we are talking about the difference between theory and model is very important. One time you learn it, and for the rest of your education, rest of your life even, sometimes maybe, for example, after 2 years, one of you can be our faculty in California Military University. Why not? We have some students, the last year of near education, near graduation is a student in DBA, that they are just now teaching in California University. Why not? Because with this perspective, you should know about the basic concept of theory and model. So theory is an abstract thought, a general principle or body of principle offered to explain a phenomenon. Please note that we are using the word explain, thinking and offering about causality, causation, thinking and offering about correlation, not the which is causality of another factor. We are talking about causation and sometimes correlation only at the same time, but repeated, repeated, and repeated. And an unapproved assumption. Theory is based on unapproved assumption. You want to assessment, you want to analyze, to study, to investigate about the assumption. It is approved or unapproved after ending the research. And what about the practice and practitioners taking the existing knowledge of the field and determine how to directly apply that information to help individual patient or clients? Let me ask you a question. What is applied science and what is pure science or basic science sometimes? Luisa, what is applied science and what is basic science?
I would say applied science is that you can translate into the practical world, while basic science focuses more on the theory.
Yeah. Other differences? Give me an example of applied sciences. Which science is applied science? You are not muted, but we cannot hear you.
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
So for example, like the doctor, they create some kind of medicine that's the pure science, but then they put the medicine to practice, like to the animal to examine. So I think it's the applied science.
So in one aspect, you can consider medicine as a pure science?
Yeah, like they discover the new kind of medicine to cure some disease. So that's a pure science. And then they
what are the
test
major,
it.
let's look at the subject with this view. What are the major pure sciences or basic sciences? We have 4 basic science, very, very basic sciences. Do you know? You know. The basic sciences in high school. What are the basic sciences in high school? They are the basic sciences, 4 basic sciences.
Math, biology,
Biology,
chemistry, physics, and
and
math.
the 4th one?
I would say biology, chemistry, physics, and math.
Perfect. These are the basic sciences. Also, scientifically, mathematics is not a science. Scientifically, mathematics is not a science. Mathematics is the language of science. You can consider, you can formulate, you can have many measurements in other sciences by mathematical models. Scientifically, mathematics is not a science, it's the language. But you consider, and everybody can consider also mathematics as a science, as a basic science. You can observe, describe, explain, predict, and control, for example, animal lives only by biology. about the molecules only by, only the pure chemistry with no application. It is the basic science. But if you are the engineer of chemistry analysis, it is not applying. It is not basic science. Even we have some applicable uh, fields, subfields of mathematics. How to use mathematics in computer science. It is not basic science. It is not basic science. This field of mathematics is applicable mathematics or applied mathematics. And in humanities, is there any field in humanities, sciences of humanities, which can you consider only as a pure science in humanities? Do you know what are the fields of humanities? Philosophy, anthropology, psychology, sociology, law, history, literature. These are music. These are the science. Also, music is then the part of music, and literature can be considered in the part of art, not science. But history, which of them can be considered only as pure science?
Literature, like arts.
No. Which of these? Psychology, psychology, sociology, law, anthropology. Do you know what is anthropology? Do you know what is anthropology? Anthropology is the scientific study of human, only human. Science of human is anthropology. Very, very, very enjoyable field. Very enjoyable. My PhD is psychology, but if I wanted to change my field, I only went to anthropology. Very, very joyful and deep, something between sociology, psychology, and history, and also genetics, and also biology. Everything you should know about human is called anthropology. For example, one part of psychology is about defining the elements to create a behavior. For example, I think Louisa had the course of organizational theory and behavior with me. Is it correct, Louisa, or not? Yes, Louisa had the organizational behavior and theory and behavior with me about 1 year ago, or no, less than 1 year ago, about 2 semesters ago. In that course, we describe the shaping behavior principles for individual in organizations. I, as a psychologist, know that how can I shape a behavior in other people? I should know. If I am an eligible psychologist, I should know how to shape behavior in other people. And it is very serious. Because of that, sometimes it is called dark psychology. Some people think that, wow, such a fearful person a psychologist can be. Why? Because he or she can manipulate other people's behavior, shaping some intentional behavior in them. But we can use those, for example, conditional, unconditional, and psychological observation and observational learning and other matters related to learning and shaping behavior. We can use those basic sciences of observing animal and human beings behavior in a very practical, money-based and efficient-based entity, so-called organization. It is the applied part of psychology. We have a very, very huge and moneymaker field in psychology, so-called applied psychology. For example, we know about the mental disorders, but if you use your knowledge in mental disorder for determining that this person is criminal or a person with mental disorder, is the applying psychology or applied psychology in forensic psychology to determine who is criminal, who is a person with mental disorder. It is something like this in humanities. But the other thing is model, something which is driven from a theory, a description or analogy used to help visualize something that cannot be directly observed. What is the function of a model? A model is something to visualize the concepts. A miniature representation. Good models are a structure or representation that approximates reality, but in a simpler and clear way. The major role, the major part, the major function of a theorist in business, a theorist in economy, a theorist in management, a theorist in sales knowledge, the main function of this expert and this professional expert is to creating models. For example, you know, many mathematicians, professional mathematicians, academic mathematicians, have gone to the field of economy to create and find the models of economic behavior. We have only one person in the history of psychology who has won the Nobel Prize. As you know, there is no Nobel Prize for psychology. In humanities, there is a Nobel Prize for economy. Daniel Kahneman has won the Nobel Prize for economy, but he is not a professional in economy. He is a professional in psychology. So what is the title that he has won the Nobel Prize for it? It is the title of economic behaviors. From perspective of psychology, he has offered and create a model of thinking, behavioring, emotional involvement in an economic atmosphere that give us the prediction of future, the prediction of the last times of creating behavior in economic situation. It is interdisciplinary. Or sometimes, for example, from Oriental countries, we know that they have a large ancient history of medicine. Total, it is called TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, or Oriental medicine, or Eastern medicine. It is something different from Western medicine? Basically, yes. Why? Because it's about the philosophy of that part of the world about health. And in continuous of health, it is about illness. It is about medicine. But it is a philosophical mind. But the physician have gained that philosophy and using in medicine. It is not about the theory. It is about the model. For example, in Oriental countries, they said that there are two elements for balancing as a health. What are they? Can my Vietnamese students say about the two major elements that we have for balance? It is called yin and yang. You are still muted. Yin and yang. It's a philosophy of mind, yes. In Oriental philosophy says the world is combined of two paradoxical, two oppositional, two dialectic elements, which are called yin and yang. When you are ill, when the balance between yin and yang has led to imbalance. Very simple. This is the function of a model, to create a picture, to create a visual representation of something that you cannot see it, you cannot look it, you cannot watch it directly. It is the model of that reality. So modeling is very important. A major part of applied mathematics, a major part of applied mathematics is about how to create model. Also in business, in industrial engineering, in management, in administration, in MBA, in DBA, you have many, many, many mathematical models for analyzing the economic and the market and the business, also about the behaviors of your employees, of your co-workers, of your managers, of your leaders, of your followers, and everybody who can be related to organizational concepts. Models or conflict maps. Special models for analyzing conflicts are called conflict maps. To work effectively on conflict, the intervener needs a conceptual roadmap or conflict map that details why a conflict is occurring, identifying barriers to settlement, and indicates procedures to manage or resolve the dispute. ADR, a model for analyzing why a conflict is occurring, is the question for analyzing the conflict. Two, identify barriers to settlement, diagnosis of a conflict. And three, resolving or resolution, indicates procedures to manage or resolve the dispute. ADR. Why models are useful than theories? Model is burdened with whether it is or not helpful and useful in simplifying or clarifying a specific problem. This is the criteria for assessment, for analyzing, for grading a model based on it is helpful or it is not helpful. Please note that models are not about the truth or false. We don't have any truth model or false model. We have efficient model and inefficient model. We have useful model or not useful model. We have helpful model and helpless model. So there is nothing about facts, about truth. It is about efficiency. It is about efficacy. It is about usefulness. Please note that, because after this class, during your job, during your continuum of your education, you will work with many models. And many times you ask, is it true or not? Please note that the matter of models is not the matter of to be true or not. The matter of model is the matter of efficiency. Does it work or not? There is nothing so-called true models or wrong models. It is useful model for prediction, for description, for explanation, and for control, or not useful model. We have many pure models, only fantastic and very, very abstract models about the, for example, word. Also in other sciences like physics, like chemistry, what models have been stable, have been consistent until now? The models that during, for example, last century help us analyzing the word and have description, for example, relativity model of Albert Einstein. Help us now, how can we have some energy toward and use it in reality? So it is correct or not, we don't know. But we know that it can be useful or not. This is the major cutoff point, the major distinguishing criteria between theories and models. So theories brought with whether it is or it is not true. Theory, it is about the facts. It is about the truth. It is not about useful or unuseful. Models help us take detailed theoretical knowledge and simplify it to something we can make sense for more quickly. Models are tools for helping us effectively get to core or to the root cause of the problems. And finally, models help practitioners accomplish practical goals. You see 1, 2, 3. At first, analyzing which model is good for analyzing, useful models. 2, diagnosing which model is good for diagnosing, the tools for helping us effectively got the core, the root cause of the problems, which is in the part of diagnosing by models. And The third part, it is about resolving the conflict. Models help practitioners accomplish practical goals. A wide range of conflict analysis models. Different conflict, different lenses. There is no one single absolute model for all conflicts. There are some general models, but you cannot say this model or not. Even, for example, these 9 models are absolutely useful for all situations. Different conflicts, different lenses. We can consider models as a lens. Different conflicts, different lenses, or diagnostic models, and different diagnosis. With which lens, with which diagnostic model, you are looking at your conflict, you are looking at your problem. And for example, these are the different lenses. We can look at our problems within these, through these lenses. One, communication lens. Is this about our communication problems? Can we consider the communication elements in this conflict? For example, interpersonal problems. Many interpersonal conflicts are communicational problems. So if you want to resolve those conflicts, the lens you should use is communication lens or communication diagnostic model. Second one, interest lens. We will talk about it. Sometimes we have some overlap of interest and conflict of interest with each other. It is interest lens. What is your model? It is the model based on interest. And personality lens. So it is different between individual differences, not about the interest, not about the power, not about the prestige. It is about the personal trait or personality traits. And other one, it is a structural lens. We have some problems in the structure we consider for resolving the problems. So what type of diagnostic we should use for resolving this conflict is called a structural lens or a structural diagnostic model. And cultural lens, for example, for immigrant, for minorities, for different cultures, we have sometimes different political, racial, ethnological problems that we should use cultural lens or cultural diagnostic model. And finally, dynamics of conflict lens. We are using the same conflict lens, the same diagnostic model for resolving our conflict. But the dynamic, the give and take, and the speed and the forces involved in how to resolve the problem is different. So we should use dynamic of conflict lens. An effective practitioner should have a constellation of diagnostic models to help frame and understand. Frame is for analyzing, understand for analyzing different situation. As experience grows, the practitioner will become more skilled at choosing the one or ones that will have create effective intervention. It is something other skills, practice and progress. It is something like other skills. But there's an interesting issue that you should consider when you want to work with the conflicts, especially, for example, for your textbook. In the first edition, you have 8 models. In this edition, second edition, after I think about 10 years, or maybe less than 10 years, you have 9 models. And some models have deleted totally. For example, I think about 6 models are as the same of the first edition. 3 models has changed. 2 models has deleted, and 3 new models have been added. So now you have 9 models. It's a vital course, a vital path, a vital being. Conflict is a vital being. You cannot use, for example, the model of 3 decades ago for resolving this decade. Even 30 years, not even 1 century, not even, for example, 1,000 years ago. We are talking about 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 3 decades. Even after 3 decades, because of the speed of technology, because of the speed of changing the basic concept of relationship and communication, everything was changed by internet. COVID-19 was the extra force to changing everything everywhere completely. And because it is relatively long term, more than 1 year, for deepening a change is very good time. With the highest force all around the world, not only for one country, not only for one nation or one part of the world, all the world. So you will see this book, you will see this model after only 3 years from now, again deleting and adding some new. Resolution the conflicts is a vital course, is a vital path, is a vital matter. So you should confront with this matter, with this issue, with your vitality, with your dynamic, with your force, with your fresh thinking and open-minded. If you are closed-minded, you will be deleted from the market as a leader, as a manager. Why? Because the new problems, new type of problems, new quality of problems need new resolving models. But if you cannot find any new resolving models and you want to use the old-fashioned resolving models, you cannot confront with the new problems because it is not about the new of numbers. It is a new of quantities, the new of quality. The essence of the problems are changing totally rudely. Okay? So we can go for rest for 15 minutes. After 15 minutes at 6:50, I am here again. Theo, what was your nickname? Fifi, you said?
It's Phoebe.
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 H-O-E-V-E.
B. No, B-E. Like A-B. B-E.
P-E. Phoebe. Yeah.
Yes.
What does it mean? Is there any meaning for your nickname or not?
Oh, it's not because of the meaning, just because my teacher back in the days gave me that name. And she actually looked in the dictionary for the whole class to find out what's the meaning in Vietnamese for our name. And then she chose an English name that kind of had the same meaning and give to each of the students.
Yeah, perfect. And your English language is very good. Is
Thank you.
everybody in Vietnam is very good or no? It's specific for you.
No, actually, now the younger generation, they speak English better than me, like a lot
Perfect.
better. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Let me keep mine. So let me take my battery. It's not, doesn't work. Perfect. So why is English your national language? Why
No,
is it so good?
it's just a secondary language, but we have to study English in school, like from fourth grade now. Before that, we go into secondary school and then we have to learn English, but now they put the younger, like the children, the kids to learn it when they were young.
So because your country is so based on tourism,
That's a
many
lot.
tourists come to Vietnam.
Mhm.
And I think
Yes,
many
there are.
a high the income of Vietnam is related to tourism.
That's
Perfect.
a lot.
So good.
Mhm.
Okay.
Dr. Arash, I have a question.
Yeah.
So normally in all the other classes, we do the quiz like in class.
Yes.
What about this course?
Yes. At the end of the quiz for 15 minutes, at the end of the semester, at the end of
Class.
session, each session, yes, each class, you have a weekly quiz for 15 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And one more thing.
Are there anything?
No. No. It was about the learning engagement, but I just realized. So I have the edition number, the first edition. As you said in the second edition, some of the things are different, like the models and all that.
Yes.
So will that make a difference?
It is completely different. You should buy the second edition.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. So what are the requirements for a good, effective model? 2 items. 1, simplicity versus complexity, and 2, a strategic guide. What does it mean, simplicity versus complexity? It means that effective diagnostic models and tools attempt to strike a fine balance between simplicity and complexity. A model that is overly complex will be too difficult to put in practice. We cannot use it. And a model that is shallow or obvious is a waste of time. What do you want to gain from this model? It is obvious model. You don't need any model for describing the obvious facts. So the balance between simplicity and complexity is very important in models. Good models are able to address complexity, but simplify this complexity enough to be useful. Good models go for address to find the complex and complicated parts of the real world and the realm the models are working on. But try to simplify those complicated facts. in a degree, in a level, to use it in a real world. It's a functional model, simplifying the complicated element. It's not about the complexity or simplicity of model. It is about the how, in what level, in what degree a model can simplify the complicated, the complexity. So the major notion, the major and the first function of a model, a diagnostic model, when you want to use your model for good for have a good analyzing and finding the problem as a diagnosis, for example, in your conflictual situations, is about simplify the complicated word, not about the complicated model. It is not about the complexity or simplicity of the model. It is about the function of the model. Second part after that is the strategic guidance. In this part, the models should offer you some strategic future, strategic perspective, strategic vision, and guidance about the actions you should do. That we will talk in the next weeks about each of the models. After providing the diagnostic model, they will give you in a very, very clear and transparent model, transparent procedure, give you many strategic guidelines and sometimes orders for exact actions, and sometimes give you some concepts. So the strategic guidance is effective models are clear and focused in giving a strategic direction to the practitioner. It's very important to give you some strategic direction. What does it mean, a strategic direction? Luisa, how do you think about the phrase strategic direction? What does it mean? What is the difference between a strategic direction and operational direction, or plan-based direction, or future-based direction? Is there any difference, major differences, critical differences between these phrases or not?
I would say strategic means, I guess, that you have yeah, kind of like a plan how to go about things. So it does involve maybe future steps.
Yeah. Give you a direction for the next step, not long term, not very, very short term. It is about the guidance, about the perspective, about the vision. Sometimes strategic directions have strategic steps. Sometimes they offer only a strategic direction, not the ways, not the drivers, not the cars, not the roads, only the direction. If you consider the conflict resolution as a journey, you need the goal, you need the destination, you need the pathway, you need the car, you need the driver, sometimes you need some passengers or not. But the strategic direction only talk about the pathway and the goals of the conflict resolution goals or target. And also in analyzing, we talk about the triggers of the conflict, what points and what causes can trigger a conflict, especially very repeatable models of conflict between people. The clearer the strategic direction the model gives, the more practical, the applicable it becomes. It is very important to know about the transparency of your strategic model or strategic direction, that the model you are using for resolving your conflict, in what level, in what degree, this model can give you the strategic direction, the strategic steps, the strategic pathway, and the more likely it will actually be used in conflict situation. Becoming a reflective practitioner. Please, after ending the session, go to internet and read about this phrase, reflective practitioner. It is very useful for you, very, very useful for your partnership, for your management, for your interpersonal relationship. Reflective practicing or reflective practice is very important. What does it mean? Reflection is a process of learning how to learn. You know, we have 4 steps before entering the science. At first, it is epistemology, ontology. Second one, epistemology. Third one, axiology. And fourth one is methodology. Do you know what is ontology? ontology, ontology with O. Do you know what is ontology? Have you taken the course of research method or not? Luisa, have you taken the course of research method for MBA or not? Okay, you will study these concepts, these major principal concepts in research method. Ontology is knowledge about the world, the essence of the existence, the essence of galaxy, the essence of the self, the essence of the world. It is the first part you should know, ontology. And after that, the question, learning how to learn, is about knowledge about knowledge. How we find, how we understand that we have understood. What is the knowledge about knowledge? When and why and where we can know that, yes, now we know. It is learn how to learn. It is epistemology, E-P-I-S-T-O, epistemology, M-O-L-O-G-Y, epistemology. The third part is about axiology, A-X-I-O, axiology. It is the science of values. What has you learned? What has you known? What value does it have? Is it valuable or not? And what are the criteria of value? Which is value? What is value? It is a major science of marketing. If you don't know what is value in your target market, you are not a good marketer. You know about the taste of people, about the culture of people, about the worldview of people. Sociology is a very, very major course for anyone who wants to work in market, for anyone. Why? You should know the values of people. People are your customers. Because of that, you see that a company like Apple has different protocols in different continents, in different countries, in different areas. In Oriental countries, different protocol for buying and selling and giving service based on the culture. In America, different culture. Even in North America, between America and Canada, Apple has different protocol for buying and selling and giving the services to the customers. Why? Because for example, economy of Canada is very, very socialistic, very social support and very government-based support from citizens. But in America, it's capitalistic. Doesn't have any high level of governmental support for people. It's different. Because our axiology is very important. And the fourth part before entering science is methodology. Methodology is the same that you call it research method, methodology. How can you think, correct, analyze something? How can you think, correct, and analyze something? It is about methodology. It is a very, very scientific approach. It is the essence of science. If you don't know how to think, correct, and scientifically procedural about something, you are not a scientist. Even as you can consider, for example, business or management in university also, as a science, you should know about the how to think as a scientist, as the chief academy of the officer of your university, Dr. Guyabadi, says that you will not be a doctor, you will become a doctor. To be a doctor is a lifestyle. To be a doctor is a style of thinking. You will not be a doctor, you will become a doctor. Also, as for example, MBA, you are learning to how to think and analyze the market. Even that without that, you are like an application. There are many applications. There are many computerized programs that can analyze a market. Why not? But without any consideration of humanistic, knowledge-based, research-based components. So reflection is the process by which professionals think about the experience, light up professional understanding of relevant theory. So reflection is the part of theory that reflected in the practitioner. Your understanding of a theory is called reflection. We have two types of reflection: reflection in action and reflection on action. Reflection in action occurs during the performance of a professional practice. Performance. During the performance, you have reflection in action. After ending the performance, you have reflection on action. Results: an increased repertoire of skills. Your fund of skills, your repertoire of skills will increase by reflection because you are aware of yourself, of what you are doing, and what are the results. You are a good observer of yourself and your job and your actions. So an increased repertoire of skills. Two, enhancement of person's ability to modify forms of intervention. Why not? Because when you are a good observer, you can find not only the deficiencies, you can find the new approaches. If you are a bias-free, without any bias in your observation, to accept or to reject your performance, you are only observer and analyzer your performance, you are your own supervisor, so you can modify. Very, very simple. You can modify your practice. Why not? And finally, alteration of the way of thinking about the problem presented in other ways. As we say in America, we say out of the box, outside of the box, or out of the box thinking. In other ways, for the same problems, when you don't have any bias, and you have two types of reflection: reflection in action and reflection on action. Reflecting in action during your performance, and after ending your performance, after ending the problem, after resolving the conflict, you also has a total reflection on the whole procedure, whole process of resolving the conflict. And you have some new view, some new perspective, some new ways, some new solution for your problem. Why not? Because you are smart. Also, it doesn't need any high level of to be smart. It's very, very average level of to be smart or intelligence is enough. The only thing which is very important reflection is doesn't have any bias to accept or to reject. Only observe and measure. Observe and measure. Observe and measure. These are the basic parts of science. These are the basic parts of any types of analysis or science. So please, after ending this session, go to internet and see about the reflection practitioner. Okay. In chapter 2, which is very simple, because chapter 3 is only your case study, please go to your book and read your case study. It is doesn't important to offer here. In chapter 2, we have a total presentation of the models. Why we use these models? At first, they are all well balanced between simplicity and complexity. These 9 models that we offer to you in this book. They are enough for the criteria of a good model. At first, a good balance between simplicity and complexity. These 9 models offer a well balance between simplicity and complexity. They were chosen for their clarity in giving direction and guidance for intervention. For clarity in giving direction and guidance. As you remember, we talk about the models for 2 criteria. At first, a good balance between simplicity and complexity. And second part, in offering a strategic direction that we talked We talk about it in details. So what are the differences between strategy, direction, vision, mission, strategy, pathway, with a sample, with the example of going a journey. Each of these models, each of these 9 models, offer the practitioner clear, focused ideas, very clear ideas, very focused idea, and what will help in a given conflict and why. What and why. These are the major questions in resolving and also in solving any conflict, any problem. What is the problem? What is our procedure? What is our problem solving? And why is it good? Is it proper? What are the evidence? What is the logic behind this model for choosing as a good model for resolving this conflict? It's very important. The models represent a wide range of unique ways to approach and address conflict. We will see the models. They are very, very interesting. Each model provides a different and potentially useful angle on the problem. This range of models is not complete and is not meant to be complete. Rather, the toolbox is intended a foundation, a good beginning toward providing practitioners with roadmaps, conflict maps that can assist them as they grow and develop. 9 conceptual frameworks, 9 models, 9 conflict maps for looking and choosing the conflicts, looking at the conflicts and choosing which model is better. Also, it is not a very hard job to find the right and proper conflict model for conflict. Why? Because each model, except the number 1 model, which underpin other models, other 8 models talk with us. We know in what type of conflict, what type and what sort of models and concepts will be good for using in analysis. Model number 1, Stairway model, interest, rights, and power. This is the basic model that underpin other models. This model foundational to the field of negotiation and conflict resolution. It helps practitioner by categorizing the various processes we use to solve problems and manage conflict in 3 distinct types: interest-based, rights-based, and power-based. The Stairway model explains the characteristic of each of the 3 types, along with the benefits and consequences of each model. What are the benefits and what are the consequences of each of these 9 models? These 3 process. It is interest-based, it is power-based, and it is rights-based. Finally, it offers direction on working with each of these 3 different processes, along with a guide for choosing effective types of processes for resolving any situation of conflict. So good. This model, as I said to you, underpin other models, basic parts that you can resolve your conflict. Also, we will talk in details in the next session about model 1. But if we want to very shortly and precisely, we can say you can resolve your conflict, the conflicts in your organization, in your society, in political aspects, internationally, interpersonally, sometimes personally with your own self, based on 3 concepts. What are our joint goals, shared meanings, shared interest? It is called interest-based processes. And after that, if we cannot find our joint interests, or no, we don't want to have a win-win game. We want to talk about the dominancy of other people. We go to law, to legislation. And sometimes law is not enough. We only use our resources. We will talk about it. It is based on the power. You can see here, dispute resolution, Stairway, cost goes out, and other things. Model 2 is the triangle of satisfaction. This model is an expansion of the interest stair on stairway, though it also functions as a standalone tool. This is one part of stairway model, only the part of first part, interest-based processes. This model deepens the area of interest because it is talking about satisfaction. Satisfaction is the deepening of your interest, deepening of your pleasure, deepening of your joy, deepening of your needs, deepening of your wants, and sometimes even deepening of your fears. Why not? All of them can create a satisfaction. It is related to the situation that you are looking for satisfaction. So this model deepens the area of interest, suggesting that there are three distinct types of interest: result or substantive interest, process or procedural interest, and psychological or emotional interest, only for interest. So in the first model, we have three types of processes: interest-based processes, and rights-based processes, and power-based processes. In the model 2 triangle of satisfaction, we also subdivided the first processes, so-called interest-based processes, to three types of interest: result or substantive interest, process or procedural interest, and psychological or emotional interest. The model offers specific strategies for working with the three different types of interest in conflict situations. You can see the picture, schematic picture of triangle of satisfaction. But the circle of conflict, as the third model, is a model that diagnoses and categorizes the underlying causes or driver of a given conflict. In the basic two models, model number 1 and model number 2, we talk only about the processes, not about the causes, not about the root causes of conflict. We only talk about the resolving, the processes involved during the resolving the conflicts. But in the third model, the circle of conflict, gradually we are going to talk about the roots of the problems or drivers of a given conflict. It classified these causes and drivers into one of 5 categories: our values, our relationships, our moods or externals, or data, and our structure. Further, the model offered concrete suggestions for working with each of these drivers. When focusing on resolution, the circle directs the practitioner toward the data and structure categories, as well as a 6th category, so-called interest. Again, we can find interest in all aspects of, honestly, in all aspects of conflict, interpersonal, social conflicts, political conflicts. It's a matter of interest. It's a matter of sometimes it is called, for example, money. Money is an interest, maybe a national interest, international interest, or good feeling is an interest, or power, or prestige, or benefits, and other things. Everything that you are looking for in a conflict resolution situation, basically it is about interest. And interest is very good because all the procedure which are basically based on interest, they are involved with win-win game. This is about consensual, that we will talk about it. The model 3 is circle of conflict. Yes, we talk it. You can hear 6 areas: relationships, values, relationships, external moods, structure, interest, and data, which interest is the new one, the 6th one. Model number 4 is the dynamics of trust as a root of conflict. Trust versus mistrust, the first stage of our biological and psychological, so-called psychosocial development, is the theory for human development by Erik Erikson. It is called psychosocial development in 8 stages from your born until your death. The first stage for the first year is called trust versus mistrust. This model at the dynamic of how trust is built and strengthened, and how we attribute blame, self-blaming, other blaming, Attribution theory, one of the most important areas of psychological research, is boiled down to help practitioners understand how trust is broken and how blame and lack of trust can make resolution difficult, if not impossible. Consider a situation in your family, in your organization, that you cannot find any trust. It is very, very hard to start, not to resolve, to start the resolving of conflict resolution. It is very hard even to start. And the model also gives the practitioner a specific strategy for rebuilding enough trust to facilitate the resolution process through activities such as procedural trust, confidence-based measures, CVMs, and attributional retraining. We can see the curve of trust and blame here. And Model 5 says the law of reciprocity. This model describes a natural law of human interactions that predicts and unconsciously directs our behavior in many situations, the law of reciprocity. Understanding clearly how the law of reciprocity influences decision-making can help practitioners diagnose specific behaviors, both constructive and destructive. It is something like, for example, criticism. We have constructive criticism and destructive criticism. And the reciprocity model gives clear strategies and how to help parties break negative cycles and rebuild damaged relationships. It's very good for interpersonal also. You see here, negative reciprocity, downward spiral. It's like a spiral, the same points at the different levels. For example, this point, this point, this point, and also this point, but not at the same level. Same points at the different level, different rows, and single column that we will talk about. Model number 6 is the loss aversion bias. The loss aversion bias is a powerful cognitive bias. It is about your cognition, your rationality, your beliefs, your thinking that unconsciously shape behavior. It's very, very complicated in situation in psychology that your mind, your thinking, which have to be completely conscious, will be shaped and will be under the control of your unconsciousness, especially unconscious bias. It can cause parties to take what appear to be irrational risks in some circumstances and settle for far less value for too easily in others. The loss aversion bias is a model that offers a strategy for helping parties avoiding the significant pitfalls that our desire to avoid losses at all costs can create. You can see here losses, gains, and fulcrum. Number 7 is the boundary model. Boundary model, similar to the circle, assesses the root causes of conflict from a structural and behavioral point of view, but suggests that conflict occurs because of how people relate to and interact with boundaries. How people relate to boundaries and how people interact with the boundaries. Our lives are filled with boundaries of many kinds, including laws, contracts, cultural expectations, norms, and limits of any sort. The model suggests that conflict occurs when parties disagree on boundaries and expand or break boundaries or refuse to accept the authority and jurisdiction inherent in a boundary. It also offers specific approaches to work with conflict caused by boundary issues. Knowing such models like this make you very, very powerful, even in your thinking, because there are some major concepts here. Also, I know some of them, like boundaries, as a concept, is very obvious. It doesn't need to indicate that, yes, this is very important. I know it, but finally, it is very important. It is very, very important to know about the practical approaches to something like boundary. And you see here the boundaries we will talk about this. The shape is very mathematical. And number 8 is the social styles model. It's a very comprehensive also model, the social styles model. This model takes a different angle on conflict than the other models in the toolbox, in that it focuses on understanding personality conflict and conflict related to personal communication styles, which is very behavioral. And uh, on the other hand, which is related not about the internal or very conceptual roots, talk about your personality, your relatively consistent features, relative consistent traits, relative consistent styles of behavior, or thought model, or emotional models. Based on the same type of research from which the Myers-Briggs Personality Indicator, MBTI, so was developed, the social style model offers a much simpler framework for assigning personal types. The social style model suggests 4 basic personality and communication style or types and offers clear skills and strategy for working with these personality characteristics in conflict situations. Okay, you see analytical, driving personality, expressive personality, and amiable personality. And number 9, the last model, is moving beyond conflict. It is a combination. One of the main barriers to resolution comes when people cannot let a conflict go and move on with their lives. A dispute can become such an important part of individual life that he or she will not allow it to end. It feels as if something important is being lost, and parties are engaged in a process very similar to grieving. The moving behind model, this model, helps identify the stages or the steps parties often must go through in order to let a conflict go and move behind it. Sometimes you use all the models and you cannot find a good answer to go through your model, and you are always in a very repeatable with 3 stages of denial, anger, and acceptance. Denial, anger, and acceptance. Okay, let me check it. Okay. Any question about the about these models? Also, this session was an introductory session to the models, to the base for the basic concepts, and highly recommended. Highly recommended. In addition to your book, I can present the books in Moodle for you. Also, the name of the books. Highly recommended, very highly recommended to read additional good books, additional applicable books in this matter. Why? You know that Harvard is always between the first 3 universities all around the world in all categories. Between Harvard, Caltech, UCLA, and Stanford. But Harvard is always number 1, 2, or 3. Most of the time is number 1. So everything is Harvard is very important. Why? Because they don't accept everything in their university. When they accept something as a matter of studying, it shows that yes, it is very up to date, very important, or very deep. Some years ago, and also now, Harvard has a project so-called studying our program on negotiation. That conflict resolution is that part of one part of negotiation. Program on negotiation. As a mother, as a father, as a manager, as a leader, as a human being, we all need to resolve our conflict and to know how to do it. Except of that, you will be always in a conflictual situation, always. With your father, with your mother, with your colleagues, with your spouse, with your children. It is one of the basic. I offer it to WHO. As you know, WHO has 10 skills, so-called life skills, but none of them is not conflict resolution and negotiation. For example, time management is one of 10 life skills in WHO, World Health Organization. Or self-awareness is one of them. Anger management is one of them. Interpersonal relationship, effective relationship, and until the end. 10 skills are considered as life skills by World Health Organization, but none of them is conflict resolution or negotiation process. It is very important to know. More you know about it, more you will be able, as any type of roles that you want to choose in your life, any type of roles, any roles. It is the first step for to be effective. If you want to be a leader, if you want to be a good manager, if you want to be a happy man or woman, my basic proficiency is in positive psychology and positive organizations. If you want to be happy, you can go to Berkeley University just now. There is a center in Berkeley University, so-called Greater Goods Institute, something like it. Let me check it. Let me check it. I will say the name of the Greater Good Science, Greater Good Science Center. Where? In Berkeley. Greater Good Science Center in Berkeley. You can go and check it. One of the greatest parts of this center, as we are working in our center in California Miramar University, we have 4 Center for Excellence. The number 4 is Transformation Center of Excellence, that I am the director. We are working something like that in CaliMU for creating the positive organization, positive leadership, very practical, very money maker. We are talking about the economy of America, not about the developing countries. It is the most developed country, at least at the financial aspect. So basically, everything is related to your interpersonal relationship. And conflict is a very basic daily experience. You can see in, for example, that center, Greater Goods, you can see a course so-called Happiness at Work. You should pay money. Very, very important. If you want to work like your grandfather or grandmother, one, you are paying money for coming at the university in America. Why? The old fashion is old. Sorry. After COVID-19, even 5 years ago, may be considered as old fashioned, even 5 years ago. So please write good books about the conflict resolution, interpersonal conflict resolution, interpersonal negotiation processes. It is not, your book is very good. I choose for the first time this book for you in this semester. You are the first students who are studying this book as your textbook. It is 2020, I know it. It's a very good book, very simple, very, very practical, I know it. But not this book, not other books are not enough. If you want to do your jobs, your works, your duties in all aspects of your life, again, I say all aspects of your life, if you want to be powerful, you should know how to resolve your conflicts. Except of that, you will lose your power every day in all aspects of your life. This book is very good, very practical, only about the how and what we do. How and what we do. How, what we do, and what we do. Other books also I will add the presentation of the books to your Moodle, and you can search it. Okay, now please go to your Moodle for entering the weekly quiz. And I think here is 7:36 p.m. For Lisa, it should be 10:36 p.m. And India and Vietnam, what time is it?
I'm in San Diego, so 7:37.
Oh, okay, perfect. You are with us. I'm in Irvine. And Vietnam? You are muted again.
I'm in San Diego too.
Yes, perfect. So, Luisa, you are the single one that's far from us. Okay, everybody is.
far away.
Luisa was here. Like Luisa was in San Diego also. Okay,
Until
perfect.
February.
So time is good. So I'm here until the next 15 minutes. Please go and start your quiz. Have a good night.
Thank you, Professor.
What? Any question?
Oh, I said thank you.
Welcome. You're welcome. You can find the answers in the PowerPoints. All the questions are from PowerPoints. Very simple.
Goodbye and have a good evening.
You too. Goodbye.
I'm done, Dr. Harris. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Alright. Good night. Have a good time. Bye. You too.